Alright, so recently I made a post on Instagram, like a pretty cool, seamless, blurry kind of collage that I thought was pretty cool, and I was gonna make this tutorial anyways, but I made a poll on Instagram asking if anyone wanted me to make like a tutorial walkthrough video, and some of you guys said you wanted it, so here it is, and hope you enjoy.
Roxanne, all she wanna do is party all night.
Okay, so now that we're in Photoshop, I just want to talk a little bit about the pictures that you see in this collage right here. So the first thing is that it's in a seamless Instagram collage. I did a tutorial on this. It'll be in the description down below. These pictures are taken with second curtain sync, or on the Sony, which I shoot with, is called slow sync. And basically the camera flash goes off at the end instead of at the start, so basically you can play around and like add some movements, and then at the end of where your camera is, that's gonna be like the main focus, or like main thing that's gonna be in focus and like the most bright. And yeah, it just gives you a lot of options to play with when you're doing like longer exposure photography, which adds this really cool blurry effect. So I might do a future video on it, but basically I say that because not like this wasn't done in post. Like the feathering and stuff and like additional blurring was done in post, but a lot of this was done in camera. So if you want like to do this exact style, you have to do most of it in camera, but I'm just gonna teach you how to make it kind of like more seamless and like make a collage out of it. Okay, so to get a deeper understanding of how I kind of like blended it in and made it more blurry, let's just go to see what one of these would look like. So group 3. So what I did was basically I would add motion blur to one of the layers, and then I would duplicate that layer, and then that layer would be in focus, and then I would add a layer mask and like take out the edges, I guess. And if it wasn't like blending well with the other pictures. So if I take away this, you can see this is the motion blur one, and then this one is very feathered. Yeah, so this one you can obviously see some layer mask feathering and masking. Alright, so you see the bottom, there's a motion blur with this one. So that's the motion blur one. And then you can do like some transformation stuff. So sometimes I think I did like some stretching, the Command T, and then like do some additional blurring and shit. And then you add I think these two layers are basically the same. It's just when you feather it, sometimes it gets too transparent, and you want another layer just to play around with what's more prominent, I guess. Just like play around with it, but basically the principle of this is you create a picture, you put in your picture, and then you duplicate it. The bottom layer you add a motion blur, and then the top layer you feather it out. So that's basically it. And then towards the end, I put all of them together, and then since some of them were like a bit dark, I made this additional layer right here to add some brightness back in, because like I said, when you were feathering it out, sometimes it got too messy and then just like wasn't transparent enough. So I added this layer. I'm gonna teach you later on, but I also added some light streaks right here. So you just go to Google and you search like light streak overlay, and then they should come up. And you can see this one right here. I also added some motion blur to it, so just go along with theme. And I also added a hue adjustment to it, just to like make it contrast the green tones of the picture. And yeah, that's pretty much it. At the end, I made another copy of the picture, and then I added some grain just to give some texture, like old school texture. Alright, so that was kind of like the walkthrough portion of the video. I just went through the original document and just went through my steps kinda, but if that didn't make sense, stay tuned and I'm gonna make this the tutorial portion of the video and actually make it, not this exact one, but just basically the principles I went through and the techniques. So let's just get back into Photoshop and do it. So here I have a new document and we're gonna just do it to these two pictures really quick. We're gonna start off with this one right here and we're gonna make this a bit smaller and then, like I said, duplicate it. And then the bottom one, you want to filter, blur, add motion blur, and then you wanna, it depends on the picture, but adjust the angle accordingly and then just go. You can go pretty crazy with the distance. I'm gonna make this like 3. And then the top layer, you wanna feather it out. You can use this or this, but the important thing is to add some feather right here. And then I'm just gonna go to the picture and then add a mask to it. So see that? That's like basically it, you know. You might wanna cut off the edges a little bit. So you see here, there's a hard edge. If like you're adding more pictures and you still see that edge, you can go to the layer mask right here and then go to brush and then use a soft brush, I guess, and then you can kind of blend it a little bit better, just so it's not so like straight and hard edges, I guess. So you can even do it to the blurry one. Even the blurry one is supposed to be like a little feathered, or you can like add additional blurring. But yeah, it's basically done. And then if you want to be organized, you can put this into a group, and then yeah. So let's work our way onto the second picture and then kind of like blur it together so it's like an actual collage. So like it's more seamless, I guess. And then this picture, like I said, duplicate it. The bottom one, you want to add motion blur. Okay, go to the first one and then mask it out. And then take off the edges, make sure it's not so edgy. You can like feather it out even more if you want, instead of doing this manually by like the brush. But yeah, you can like even delete it using feathering like this. To rasterize this, I guess. And then, yeah, just see, that's like a lot more feathered, and you can make this into a group, and then move that closer. Whoops. And then it kind of like blends in a lot better. Like I said, this is just going over the principles. I'm not actually making the collage, but yeah, you can see like it feathers really well and blends in really well. So that was basically how I did it. And like I said, at the end, I created a new layer. So I did Control-Shift-Alt-N to make a new layer, and then Control-Shift-Alt-E just to make like a snapshot of that layer. And then I duplicated it, and then I did image, apply image, multiply, blending mode, and then I did screen, and then I would turn down the opacity, and then add a layer mask, and then like take out the parts that I thought were too bright and didn't need additional brightening, because I I kind of want it to be like a little bit more punchy, and especially when you're feathering, like I said, you lose kind of the details sometimes, but yeah. And so let's just delete this really quick. And then another thing that I did was you can like do additional blurring, so I can like go here and then make a copy of that, and then do another copy, and then this one I'm gonna do blurring on this one. We did 2 copies because the first one is gonna be more in focus, I guess, because we're not gonna blur the whole thing out. But you add some motion blur, do it accordingly, and you can see like it's really cool. And then for this one, you maybe want to mask it out a little bit. And it's like more blurry, so take this out. Adding some additional blur, just to like make the subjects in the pictures more like, add more to that aesthetic, I guess. And like I said, I went to Google to add some light trail overlays, but in my opinion, and I came up with this after I posted it basically, but you can also make your own light trails. So basically I got these LEDs, and then I turned off all my lights, and then I turned the settings to like 0.6 of a second, and then I did like a high f-stop, like f6 or something, and then ISO 100. I set the focus to manual, and I set it to pretty close, and then I would step like 3 meters back, and then I would move the light with the self-timer, put a self-timer on the camera, and then move the light around, and then make these cool light trails. So anytime you can like mix like your own assets with your work, I think it's pretty cool, especially like real life stuff, because if you go online, you usually have to pay for these assets, or they're not as high quality. So I basically did this, and this was one of the better ones I came up with, I think. And you just want to do some adjustments to really dial in everything, because we're gonna make this a screen overlay, and basically screen makes black transparent, so we have to make sure everything but the light is transparent. So that looks pretty good right there. And then you got it right here, and then you just go to screen, and then you can put this in between pictures just to add to that aesthetic. And then you can like do some additional blurring to it. Blur. And yeah, you can like duplicate it and then remove the blur. And then you can kind of like mask it out or whatever. Like I said, just using those general principles of like blurring and then like masking and duplicating and all that, and then you can have something pretty similar. So like I said, at the end I made a new layer, snapshot, and then I did filter, noise, add noise, and then bam. This adds some texture to it, old school texture. And yeah, that's basically how I did it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I went over the video pretty quickly. I'm not sure how long this video is gonna be, but if anything didn't make sense, or if you want some clarification, I don't think it's too hard, but if I went over it too quickly, just let me know in the comments down below, and I'll try to help you out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If there's anything you want me to do a video on, let me know in the comments down below. Peace.